Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very thrilled to present to you JSS Blazor. So, what makes JSS Blazor great and possible? So, first, what I mentioned earlier is that it's built on .NET Core. It's a familiar development stack, so you're writing your code in Visual Studio, in C#, building your projects in MS Build, and consuming NuGet packages. The US toolset all Sitecore developers are familiar with. Blazor uses C#, and you can share your code between the client and the server. JSS Blazor is community-driven. It's open source, but keep in mind, it's not an official Sitecore framework. It's a framework built for the community, by the community. As Corey mentioned earlier, JSS Blazor is built on WebAssembly. And it has the same concepts of React, Angular, and Vue. And it's very easy to pick up to people, those who are familiar with those frameworks. Lastly, JSS Blazor is made possible because of a new feature called the rendering host. This was announced at SitecoreSYM EU in London last April, and is shipped quietly with Sitecore 9.2. The rendering host allows you to offload your Sitecore server-side rendering to another server through REST calls. So let's first take a step back and see how Sitecore JSS integrated mode works. So again, we have a web browser, and we call the style guide. This request is processed by Sitecore, and it will retrieve the Sitecore item for that path and hand it over to the layout service. Layout service will produce a JSON, and this JSON then is passed on to a Node.js process with Angular, React, or Vue application, and the HTML is rendered on the server, and then it is passed on to the browser. So the HTML is server-side rendered, so this is what makes the experience editor work. Also, Google and Bing web crawlers can now crawl your website for SEO. Now move along. This is how JSS Blazor integrated mode works. So again, we have the web browser, make a call to Sitecore, and the item of that path is retrieved and passed on to the layout service. And instead of feeding this JSON to Node.js, it feeds it to our rendering host, which is running on .NET Core. On this .NET Core process, we have our JSS Blazor application. This is the same application which is also running in the client. So the HTML is rendered and sent back to Sitecore, and Sitecore will pass it on to the web browser. We made the rendering host with .NET Core, but it could be anything. C++, PHP, Java, it doesn't matter. The only thing is that the rendering host must accept the layout service JSON through an HTTP post request and send back the HTML.